Actions have consequences, and our triumph over the Night Lord is no exception. This seems to be the main premise of Nightreign's DLC, The Forsaken Hollows. But what is truly happening here? The first thing that comes to mind is the name itself, The Forsaken Hollows. This can't be a reference to hollows from Dark Souls, right? Right? I mean, it doesn't help that the main antagonist of the DLC is called the Dreglord, and human dregs are very important to the story of Dark Souls. But no, From Software wouldn't do that. But wait, what is that? The Dreglord's skybox is literally a 1-to-1 copy of the human dregs item from Dark Souls 3, you say? Oh shit, here we go again. I have a strong suspicion that I know what the story of the DLC is all about. But before that, I want to make a disclaimer. The game isn't out yet, of course, so this is speculation based on a lot of evidence that I gathered. So you can view this as a fun attempt to try and decipher the story before release. Now, let's begin. The description of the DLC, according to the Elden Ring Twitter account, reads as follows. In our war against the night, every battle left a scar. These wounds were given will, a foul life, born of castaway souls. Steel your resolve, Nightfarers. This hunt must be seen to its end. Of course, this is referring to the Dreglord. Therefore, we can deduce that the Dreglord is born of the castaway souls that fell during our fight with the night. But this concept of souls and dregs isn't really native to the lore of Elden Ring. Therefore, we must find another source material to understand this new addition. The hint was the Forsaken Hollows, yet this name has a double meaning. This is where Dark Souls collides with Elden Ring. The first meaning is the reference to Dark Souls. In Dark Souls, the furtive pygmy found the Dark Soul. It was split into an infinite number of fragments called humanity. When you lose your humanity, when you lose your soul, you go hollow. But there is also another thing connected to humans, the human dregs. The item description states, dregs are the heaviest things within the human body and will sink to the lowest depth imaginable. Those sunken dregs form a place called the deep. We don't know what exactly in the human body forms those dregs, but we know that the dregs are connected to humanity. And we know that the abyss originated from the humanity of Manos going crazy. In-game, we find that weapons that deal extra damage to the creatures of the abyss also deals extra damage to the creatures of the deep. And while we are here, I believe that's why my boy Artorias showed up now. Being a second-day boss during the Dreglord's expedition is perfect, since the Abyss and the Deep are connected. The same happened with the Nameless King and the Dark Drift Knight, as they are thematically connected. Now going back to the Deep, we can find gems called Deep Gems. Their description states that there is a darkness that lies beyond human kin. Of course, the relations between humanity, the dark soul, and the dark are well known. So in my opinion, the human dregs come from humanity. They are the heaviest part of humanity and the darkest bits of the human soul. Those dregs sinks and form the place called the deep. And this is where the second meaning of the Forsaken Hollows comes into play. The Great Hollow is the name of the new Shifting Earth event that we will get in the DLC. The description of the new Shifting Earth reads as follows. A great cavity in the depth of Lemveld. The hollow is strewn with exotic ruins and temples, sacred towers denoting the remains of an ancient people, and crystals that exude a cursed, life-draining miasma. We did not see much of this Great Hollow, but it's going to be really interesting to learn more about this ancient people and if they are connected to the base Elden Ring. Now, the description is very ambiguous, but there are some important keywords here. The only shot we got of this Great Hollow is showing mostly a huge crystal. We know from the description that this is the life-draining crystal. What is really interesting is that it looks a lot like the deep gems from Dark Souls 3. The name itself, the Great Hollow, was the name of a secret area in Dark Souls 1, further reinforcing the connection. The second keyword is exotic ruins and the remains of an ancient people. So those ancient people probably aren't native to the lands between, which is really interesting, and their remains stayed at the Great Hollow. We already know from Shadow of the Erdtree what impure remains can turn into when not properly disposed of. They come back to life as an amalgamation. Now, here is what I think happened in the Great Hollow. The dregs of those ancient remains sunk deep into the hollow, forming a graveyard of sorts. Then this graveyard attracted the dregs of those who fell during the night. This huge concentration of souls and darkness gave birth to the Dreglord, as the tweet explained. Hence, the Forsaken Hollows. After establishing how the Dreglord came into existence through the souls that fell during the night, we need to ask ourselves an important question. What actually happened to the night after the base game? Every ending in the base game revolves around vanquishing the night, aside from Iron's Eye ending. But in the DLC, we clearly see that the Nightreign did not stop. But how? I believe we were given the answer in the trailer. In one of the shots, we can see the tree giant of the Dawn ending. We already deduced in the base game that this giant is a physical representation of the night. And during the Dawn ending, we see it leaving the lands between while the Erdtree glows ever brilliant, which donates the ending of the Nightreign. But then, in the trailer, we see the night giant in a seated pose, with a weird crown and roots that look as if they are chains. If we look at the background, we can see the same building we see in the Great Hollow. So, here is what I think happened. The Dreglord didn't want the night to end. Endless night means infinite souls, and therefore infinite power. So it chained the night giant in the Great Hollow, preventing its departure and controlling the Nightreign. That is why we can see the continuation of the night in the DLC despite vanquishing it in the base game. Now, the Dreglord isn't the only Night Lord we will get in the DLC. We have another Night Lord that is equally intriguing, and I believe plays a big part in the new settings revolving around souls. We only got one shot in the trailer, but immediately we notice a striking contrast between the two Night Lords. One is very dark themed with a lot of blood and gore, and the other is light themed, pure radiance. The first time I saw the trailer, I thought of two things. First, those look like Valkyries, and second, oh shit, I'm not going to fight 7 Millennias at the same time. Seriously, this new Night Lord looks strikingly similar to Millennia. Even the way she extends her weapon has a similar animation. What's really interesting is that Millennia is explicitly referred to as a Valkyrie in Elden Ring. The Valkyrie's prosthesis states that this golden prosthesis was once used by the one-armed Valkyrie. Now, I don't think that the new Night Lord is literally Millennia reborn, but it is certainly a callback to Millennia. Another interesting item description is that of the winged scythe. It reads as follows: Sacred scythe resembling a pair of white wings. According to pagan belief, white-winged maidens are said to be death, gentle envoys. Now taking another look at the new Night Lord, we can see what looks like a pair of small white wings. Again, reinforcing the Valkyrie idea. But what do Valkyries do in mythology? Valkyries are female figures from Norse mythology who guide those who met their end in battle to Valhalla. This explains the pure and radiant skybox in the background. This also fits really well with what we established about the Dreglord. On one hand, we have someone who feeds on the dark souls of the fallen heroes, and on the other hand, we have someone who rescues the pure souls. This whole soul-centered theme is quite interesting. I guess that is why we get a scholar and an undertaker as our new Nightfarers. One can study those souls and the other can put them to rest. I can't wait to see the whole story and find out if I nailed it or not. This was a very fun video to make and I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, then please hit the like and subscribe button and tell me what you think in the comments section down below. Until next video, farewell, fellow Tarnished.